You want to know why you're so self-conscious, how it keeps you from connecting, and what you move towards while you heal. Stay tuned. The reason you're so self-conscious is because you grew up with criticism and judgment. When you have the fearful avoidant attachment style, there is almost no chance that you didn't grow up with criticism and judgment, either aimed at you or aimed at the world. Both have an impact, and both can lead to you internalizing that criticism and that judgment. So this is something that is missed so often with the fearful avoidant attachment style. That attachment style can develop almost solely, only from growing up with a lot of criticism and judgment, having a parent who is very well meaning but trying to correct you too much to prepare you for the real world, to make sure that you will survive in the big bad world. That is usually the reason why they do it. But what happens is that you grow up, you leave the house, and then you start doing that to yourself because you've internalized that criticism and judgment, even when you were aware of it when you were younger or during your teenage years, that your parents were critical and judgmental. Even when you're aware of that and you didn't like it, you probably will start doing that yourself. And you do that to be safe because you've learned when you were younger that you needed to be corrected constantly in order to be safe. And so when there's not someone or something doing that, you do that yourself. And so you start to be conscious of everything. I remember going to parties, even just going out the door, I would be so conscious of every single thing that could be wrong with me. Like, am I walking funny? Is my hair weird? Is my facial expression weird? And in conversations, I was so self-conscious of what I said, how I said it, whether what I said was appropriate or not. I had no inner compass. I had no inner knowing that I was doing the right thing because I was so used that over every single thing that I did, someone would say something. As far as I remember sitting in the living room with my fearful avoidant parent and them saying, "Why are you breathing so loud?" And me not being aware that I was breathing loud. And it's when that's what you grow up with, just somebody being on your case constantly, it makes so much sense that you are self-conscious, that you are conscious of every single thing because every single thing was pointed out to you when you were younger. And so you started to believe that every single thing that could be weird or funny or wrong or an annoyance to somebody else, like breathing, could be an annoyance to other people too. And so you need to keep yourself in check constantly because otherwise other people will get angry or you will be abandoned. So what I noticed when I met my husband, who is very dominantly securely attached, is that his parents just let him be. And that was just a completely new thing for me. Again, I believe parents do their best, absolutely do their best. I know my parents did, and they really just tried to prepare me for the world, and they weren't aware of their own wounds and their own incapability of regulating themselves. But my husband's parents just did not make remarks about anything. They were just with us when they were with us. And whenever I would say something weird or funny, they wouldn't even flinch. They wouldn't point it out. They would just keep talking. And it took a while, but that was so freeing to realize that not everybody does this. And so I realized this is just something that my parents apparently do. And I I don't have to keep myself in check constantly, because what my father finds important doesn't mean that other people find that important too. And it was a whole journey to finding my way back to myself, and just healing a lot around allowing myself to just be and not criticize and judge myself for every single thing. And one of the things that is the most painful, I think, is that being self-conscious keeps you from connecting to other people. Because I remember so well that when I was very self-conscious, in conversations, I was only focusing on, am I doing this right? Am I saying this right? Is the other person finding me interesting, funny? Should I say something funny? Oh, was that a weird thing that I said? And that is not connection. And from that, what actually helped me, and this might come across as harsh or cold, but it really did help me, so I want to mention it, is that I realized that being insecure is actually selfish in the most literal sense of the word, because when you're insecure, you're mostly focused on yourself. I was so focused on myself. I remember I lived in the States for a year when I was 18, and I was very much into basketball back then. And so uh, I was the manager of the women's basketball team at the college I went to, which meant that I videotaped the games. It was amazing that the coach let me do that. It was amazing to go with them on all these tournaments. They actually got really far in the state championship in California, so it was really cool to witness all of that. But when I look back on that with a lot of empathy, I think I was so insecure that I was only focused on myself. I never really asked questions to those girls, like how are you, where, how are you doing, how can I be there for you. I never tuned into them, even though they were amazing. That whole team was amazing to me, so kind and so sweet. And it never occurred to me to give that back, because I was so used to something or someone only focusing on me and what I did wrong. And so I was trying to not do anything wrong, thinking that that would benefit them the most. But obviously that didn't benefit them the most. That would be me being secure in myself and, tuning into them. When you're insecure now, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. But I so vividly remember having gone through that year, and a few years after, looking back on that, realizing, like, it was almost a shock realization, like I never really asked them questions. Wow. I wanted them to like me so much that I was just completely absorbed in my own, like, how I came across, my own presentation. And I regret that, because those girls were amazing, and I'm so curious to, know more about them. But I remember the moment that I realized, wow, being insecure is not cute, or is not, doesn't mean I'm a sweet person. That is sometimes still the kind of image that an insecure person has, that, they're very kind, they're very sweet, and they can be. But it's not cute. It's not a sweet thing to be so conscious of yourself that you're not able to connect, because in the end, that's what most people want. And I'm not saying this to be harsh, but sometimes a harsh truth is needed to heal. There were a lot of harsh truths that I had to face, a lot of me kicking myself in the butt and being just, the I guess the kind of like the older version of myself, saying, yeah, well, if you really want to heal, then this is, a truth that you have to face. So don't use this to be extra harsh on yourself. Use this to, if it helps you, to realize that if there's any association to, being insecure or self-conscious, that is benefiting you in any way, that it might be time for a reframe, and it might be time to see where you can get to, and to actually connect to other people, and while being secure in yourself. So when you're self-conscious, when you're insecure, it's really hard to tune into the other. It's very hard to tune into the other person. And when you're deeply connected to the other person, you're not going to be self-conscious, because self-conscious comes with always trying to see if you are doing this right or wrong. And as soon as you're in a conversation or in a situation with somebody and you're constantly checking, am I doing this right or wrong, you are being self-conscious and you're focused on yourself, which again is not a bad thing. It's just a trauma thing. And that's what we're unlearning, uninstalling, healing, so that we can connect. It's not bad, it's just trauma. It makes sense, and we can uninstall it. So you're constantly focused on doing it right or doing it wrong. Whereas when you heal, you move from being self-conscious, feeling like I am doing things wrong and I have to make sure that I'm doing it right, to being self-aware. And being self-aware is a whole other thing. It means that you are aware of what you're doing, but you're not judging it, whether it's right or wrong. You are attuned to yourself and to the other, so you can pick up signals if somebody is feeling uncomfortable by something you say, but you don't go into judgment and criticism then. You dive into being curious. What is happening? Why is that person uncomfortable? What can I do to make them comfortable? Being self-aware means that you allow your feelings, you allow your own boundaries, you get to tune into how the other person is experiencing the relationship or the conversation, without going into right, wrong, criticism, and judgment. And that is the place where you can connect. I used to be so afraid of making a mistake that when somebody would be uncomfortable in a group setting and I wouldn't even say anything, I felt responsible for making that person feel good, and think that it was my fault that that person didn't feel good. And now when I'm in a group setting, or I'm in a conversation and somebody, something happens, whatever it may be, and somebody feels uncomfortable, I can get quiet inside, calm and peaceful, and just be present and just observe what is going on, and therefore stay present with that other person instead of retreating into myself and feeling like I'm doing everything wrong, because that means I'm abandoning myself, but also abandoning that other person that might need it. So in my relationship with my husband, before, when I would feel like I was doing something wrong or something weird, I would go into self-criticism and self-blame and self-judgment. And now when something happens, I stay present with my own feelings, like, oh, this is doing something. Oh, this is interesting. But also with his feelings. And being able to stay present with both, that is just a whole other level of living life, which, to be honest, I think a lot of people have difficulty with, because that is not something that we get taught easily when we were younger. And I'm not perfect, just to, obviously it doesn't always happen perfectly, but I'm not self-conscious anymore in situations 99.9% of the time. And that is freedom. It is freedom to be myself. It is freedom to actually enjoy conversation. It is freedom to get to know other people, get to know other characters in this world. And I'm not saying that if you're insecure or self-conscious that you never ask anything to anyone. That could just be me, that I was incapable of doing that at that time. So I'm not trying to generalize everything, but usually when you are self-conscious, insecure, You are more focused on yourself than on the other person, which makes sense. And when you move to being healed and being self-aware, you are aware of yourself, so you're not abandoning yourself, and you get to tune into the other person and really connect and not be distracted by those judgments and criticisms. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Which makes for much easier flow in a relationship and in a conversation. And I just wish for you to experience that more and more, because it could be that you already experience it a little bit, but I just wish for you to experience it more and more and more, so that you're more and more free and you can be more and more yourself, because you, my darling, are also such an amazing, unique character in this world, which I wish I could get to know you too and ask you a million questions and tune into you and connect to you. So being self-aware, having healed this, allows you to be more of yourself, your true, just who you are, and connect to others. While being self-conscious leads you to being very focused on doing it right or wrong, so not really being you and expressing yourself, and not really tuning into others. All right, I'm very curious what you think about this. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one. Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of a fearful avoidant attachment style.